So we are almost in 2024. So it's time to bring the crystal ball, the cards, and everything that you may think that could be helpful to predict the future and talk about it. So today I've invited some of the most amazing wizards in the content marketing field to discuss about what probably 2024 will bring to us. If you are watching us right now, feel free to ask your questions because we would love to reply to you. Also, feel free to share this conversation with your friends, with your family. Maybe this could be a nice live show. Well, it will be recorded by those days to watch this in Christmas Eve with your family in front of the couch listening to us. So I believe, let me check because I can see that Jim is hitting the last cookie, which I left there. So let's bring our really special guests to the stage. There you go.
Man, these cookies are great. We need the recipe here, the backstage cookie recipe.
That guy up there is special. I'm just Jim.
It's a family secret. I can tell you.
Oh, special ingredients.
Yes. Do you know, by talking about, and this could be nice for our conversation before starting with introductions. Oh, it's my show. I do whatever I want.
That's right. That's right.
The thing is,
I've noticed that about you, Marco, which is a good thing.
I don't know if you saw the Kung Fu Panda, the first video, the first movie, the Kung Fu Panda. I saw it first because my niece, back to those days, she was little and she loved the movie. But the thing is, I was kind of always waiting for her to ask me, Tio, põe o Panda Kung Fu to play the video. Which I said, Uncle, please play the movie Kung Fu Panda. And there was something there that his father told him, there's this secret about the secret sauce from the soup. And we were watching the movie, and by the end, he said, there's no any secret sauce. And one day I was invited to talk about live streaming, and I brought this kind of storytelling approach. Like, I think they were the 7 secrets that Kung Fu Panda taught me about live streaming. Oh. And one was about the secret sauce. And the secret sauce of live streaming is that there is no secret sauce. It's see what you made well, what you're not doing so well, and all these kind of things. Because sometimes we think, okay, well, yes, we have some secret sauces within us that I think it's hard to kind of replicate. But by the end of the day, there's other things that you can do as well in your way, but you can do them as well. So, talking about the secret sauces, today I brought 2 spicy secret sauces, Chris Stone and Jim Fuhs, if you don't mind, because the world. It's December. It's almost Christmas.
Yes.
Love is all around.
Love.
Well, that's a good movie.
So if you don't mind to introduce yourself, and then we can start the conversation.
Beauty first, Jim.
Oh, Chris, stop. I'm Jim Fuhs. I am a retired Marine Lieutenant Colonel. I'm the president of Fusion Marketing, and I do marketing the Marine Corps way. And one of my favorite things to do, which unfortunately at times we're not able to do enough, is to hang out and do Dealcasters with my friend Chris Stone on all the tubes. Even though we're on Amazon, we like to be on all the tubes because we'll probably talk about that's part of the secret sauce that we don't have the recipe for, but that we would say. And I'm in Marietta, Georgia, and For Marco's fans, I hablo español. Mi mamá es de Lima, Peru.
Muy bien.
Muy bien. For me, un poco español. So, muy un poco, if that's even a thing. But
is.
Yes,
anyway,
a little.
I'm Chris Stone. I'm at castahead.net, and I work with motivated entrepreneurs to do a show, a podcast, because most of the time people, they want a show, they just don't want to figure out how to do all the stuff that it takes, and that's what we do for them. We let them come out of their trailers, step up to their microphones and their cameras, do their show, and we handle the rest. And as Jim said, not enough, but we love to jump on to Amazon and all the tubes, and in the biggest mall in the world online, Amazon, and do a show and demonstrate what we can do as remote producers.
Awesome. And I love this being. And one thing, okay, it's my show. I can do whatever I want.
and that's what's great. And you know what, Marco? Something about the special sauce that you were talking about, the special ingredient, the special sauce. Mm-hmm. And I think every one of us that do live shows like this, or do podcasts, or create content, a lot of it is really about the same things, right? There's plenty of shows out there that are talking about what the future of content is in 2024. And they're doing their shows. But the only difference between those shows and this show is the guy that's on the upper left-hand part of your screen. It's Marco's show. And so the special sauce is you. It's just like, I work with a lot of salespeople, and they're all selling the same thing. But the only difference is the salesperson, is the person that is presenting whatever it is. And so, Marco, your special sauce, for me, I enjoy watching your show. I think I think and Jim might agree with me, I love your laugh. I just do. I think it's infectious, right? And I think it's very welcoming. It's almost like, okay, I'm coming into Marco's family room, and we're going to have a chat. And I just love it.
Let me share, having in mind the secret sauce, let me share a secret. People were, because I started kind of doing this in a more regular basis and with guests back in 2018, okay? And mainly with people from the Spanish-speaking market, okay? And I was doing this, and meanwhile, I was going to Spanish Congress marketing, okay? And the thing is, people look at me because for a Portuguese, I'm 6'2", so I'm a little bit tall. And people, in the screen, you don't seem that tall. But that's me. I don't know. Then I just need to prove with one thing, my laugh. There you go.
Yeah, it is. It's one of a kind. It's awesome.
Yes. So that's the thing. And I believe this is a nice way, as you said, for us to kind of be different. And sometimes we just let me share this, and this could be a nice starting point for our conversation. One day I was seeing those talent contests like Got Talent and The Voice, whatever.
American Idol.
Yes, Portuguese Idol, whatever.
Portuguese Idol, yeah.
One day I will try it.
Yeah.
And there was this teacher with the person in the contest, and he was trying to do everything, trying to turn everything around, like making this new version about, for instance, My Way from Sinatra. And the teacher come to him and listen, just by using your voice, this will be a different version. So don't over try to change everything, because just your voice, just the way you breathe, whatever, will make it difference.
I love that.
So it was actually a good point, because sometimes there's this need to reinvent the wheel every time we start something, and there's no need for that. So the first question, having this in mind, is there a place for me to start creating content in 2024?
Jim, do you want that one? Oh, I'm sorry,
It's
we're not
not
finished.
me.
Okay.
It's for, like we like to say, it's for a friend.
Oh, okay. Asking for a friend. Asking for a friend. I think, Marco, that it's never too late, right? I think the problem is people think like, I mean, even when you look at, as an example, people talk about what Chris and I have done with Dealcasters. Well, 3 years ago, it didn't exist, right? We started from zero. But I think that's also the lesson is it's going to take time. You've got to be consistent. You can't get worked up about, well, I did this video and nobody watched it, or why isn't anyone watching my video? You're going to get better a little bit every time. That's what you got to think about. You're not going to come out of the box, looking 100%. But is it too late? Absolutely not, because there's some stats out there. As an example, one of the places that I think people aren't doing enough on, LinkedIn, as an example, big B2B platform. I think I saw a stat that it's less than 3% of the people on the platform are actually creating content of any sort, right?
Wow.
And so when you look at things like LinkedIn company pages, there's an opportunity there for creating LinkedIn audio as a business where you can talk to your customers and bring them on stage instead of using Clubhouse, which apparently now doesn't want creators. I heard someone talking about that recently. It's no longer for creators, so I don't know what it's for. And then YouTube with the, millions and millions of people on there, it's same thing, right? We get a lot of people subscribing to the Dealcasters channel on YouTube that have no content, right? If anything, it's funny sometimes because these are the people, and we know our friend Joe Pardo gets this, these people will sit there and complain about your channel, but yet they've got nothing to show for you to complain about. But I want to kick this over to Chris because I think it also brings up the podcasting, and I know this is where Chris is he's the guy I go to when I got questions about podcasting. But even that, people are like, oh, there's all these podcasts, but Chris can probably go further with that.
Yeah, I think if there's people, Marco, in your audience listening or watching on replay or live, and there's there's three buckets, so to speak. There's someone who hasn't started doing really any content and they want to. Then there's the people that have started and they've done some content and they've quit. And then there's the third, which is they haven't quit and they're making content, okay? And so the first thing, if you're talking about someone who isn't making video content at all, what they're seeing on their algorithms and what they're seeing on their phones and what's scrolling is people who have done it for years. So if you're talking about from a fitness perspective, if someone is in a gym and they want to lose 30 pounds that they've put on over the holidays or whatever, you don't go in one or two times and come out shredded looking like the people on the magazines. You don't. You have to go in, and sometimes you even have to hire a trainer at a gym to help you through it. And so I think a lot of times people quit because they see the stuff that they think they could never be. And that's what happens in the second bucket. They see all this stuff and they've put out a couple of videos and they're really trying, but it's so complicated and they've got so many other things going on. And I would say to encourage the people that are in that second bucket, you're already in the 1% because you're trying and you're doing. You just have to keep going. And so sometimes it's just popping up your camera and speaking to the person that you want to help. And if you can do that, you can create a community for yourself. And eventually, people start reacting to what you did. Jim talked about Dealcasters, Marco. When we went live on that show, we didn't know who we were talking to. We had an idea of what we were going to do, and we're like, we need to do this show. And we demonstrate stuff for our clients and remote producers. Marco, you have clients, you have people that you work with, and you kind of have to help them line them up on video, talking to the microphone the right way, tell them why they have to have headphones when they do things like this. All of those things we were doing, but you don't realize just how many people in this world have no idea how to do any of that stuff. And so we kept on doing the show and kept on repeating ourselves because people were asking us those questions. And then you develop this community of people that trust you. And they say, hey, I can do this thing. I because that person said that if I talk on the microphone this way, then I don't have these things called plosives, and it blows out my microphone, and it sounds like garbage when I try to put out a podcast. Eventually, you create this community of people that you're helping, and I think, I know I'm going on some tangents here, Marco, but I feel like there's a lot of people when you're seeing all of this stuff, the AI, the video, and all of this great stuff that we're all interested in and trying to figure out. But they haven't even started yet. And it's really hard for people to get started. And that's really, listen, I wish I had the first Dealcasters video that I could play, because we'd all cringe. We'd all go, oh my gosh, Chris, you look like a ghost. Jim, I can count your nose hairs. Why is that? Why is your microphone, like, it wasn't good. And the first video anyone does isn't good. But the cool thing is nobody watches it. Nobody's going to see it, but you got through the reps.
Not
You got
even
through
God.
it. Yeah. And then you watch the video and you go, "Oh my gosh, I could do better here. I could do better here." And you give it to other people that you trust that can give you some, well, you know what? Chris, you say and too much, right? Okay. I have to work on that. Chris, you say whatnot. That was Jim's thing. Okay, I'm going to take that and I'm going to work on it. And then I can get up to a point to where I'm more confident. I'm doing it better, and it's really about building confidence.
Absolutely.
Does that answer your question, Marco? Or am I?
Absolutely. I think because this AI thing and blah 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 doesn't relate, at least for me, with the most important things. They are a next level, and because AI adoption, I don't know, should be around 0.1%. So, but the thing is, I completely relate looking back to the first videos I made. And I don't mind bringing them to when I do trainings about content. And I said two things. I say two things. One, if by the end of this training your video would be as bad as this one, I will be really frustrated. Because today I give them the tools, okay, so they can be better. They have better cell phones, they have better lights, everything, so you could do better than I did. But there's the second thing, which is even way more important, which is the delivering.
Yes.
Because if your cell phone it's amazing, or your camera it's amazing, your microphone it's amazing, the lights, everything perfect, but the content that you are delivering it's bad, no deal here.
Doesn't
That's
matter.
right.
That's
Yes.
right.
No deal. This is something that for me it's innegotiable. And there's this thing that some people they said, because there's this struggle again with the long form, short form, which for me doesn't make any sense, this conversation. I said, well, if we do a long form video, blah, 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 and I say, it depends on quality. And I said, I like to say, no, it doesn't. Because when I talk about making a video, I'm talking about making the best video you can. Because, for instance, if you go to a cooking class, and the teacher say, okay, let's grab the potato, you wouldn't be asking him, is that a good potato? For me, that it's for granted.
Yeah.
So no way we can argue with that. And also that thing that you mentioned, consistency, improving. And there's another thing that for me it's pretty important about metrics. Sometimes I get DMs, mainly on LinkedIn, by people which I never figured out that they were watching me.
Right.
And this is one thing which is very important. Sometimes those lurkers, that silent people, they are just there looking at you.
Yep.
And suddenly they knock at your door. I would love to work with you.
That's it.
Yep.
And you came from where?
Right. Yeah, you don't think they're watching. You think You think you look at the views, or sometimes you're not getting the people and the engagement that you want on a show, on a live stream, and lo and behold, somebody says, "Hey, Marco, you did this on show 174. You created this and you did this. Can you do that for me?" And your mind goes, "How did that ever come about?" And so I talk about this a lot, Marco, is that, I work a lot with these clients, and if somebody is approaching these clients and they want to, say, be on their show, the first thing I do is I look for their YouTube channel. It's the first thing I do. And so if anyone's listening right now and they don't understand, they don't know why they would put anything on YouTube, right? They want to do something. That's one of the first things you need. Obviously, you need your own website. You need your own land but having a YouTube channel in 2024 is paramount. And I don't care if it's just videos of you talking and presenting yourself, because a lot of times I'm going to look for someone that's going to be on a podcast. They don't have a YouTube channel. They have a bunch of highly edited videos, nothing live. And so I don't really have a sense of what that person is. If you search Marco Novo, you know exactly who that person is, except he's taller. Right?
Yes.
But you know exactly who it is, because so if we're talking to that person who's like, I don't understand what I'm going to do on YouTube, you just got to get yourself on it first. Take your brand or whatever you're doing and figure out how to get yourself on it. It's owned by Google, so it is the second largest search engine. And so to your point, Marco, about somebody searching and finding you on LinkedIn, if you don't have content that people can find to get a sense of what you do and who you are on YouTube, you are not going to get found. And if you Google yourself, and you should Google your brand, what is popping up first? Is it someone else with your name? Is it someone else that has a close name to you? When we started Dealcasters, Marco, you would Google Dealcasters, and there was 5 pages on Google about these caster wheels that they were on sale. And it was 5 pages of nothing but that. We started our show, and we put it everywhere. We put it on YouTube. We redirected things to Amazon. And probably within 3 or 4 months, when you Googled Dealcasters, all you saw was us for 5 pages. And those caster wheels went away. And that's when things started to ramp up. So if I'm creating content and I don't know where I'm going to go first, it's your website. It's putting content on your website first and foremost, because you own that. You want to create your email list. You want to create something so you don't want everything to be controlled by YouTube and Elon Musk and sorry, Jeff Bezos, if you're hearing this on Amazon, but you want to have something that you own yourself. But get your video content on YouTube. Get your presentation, eye level. Get a light in front of your face. Get fluffy stuff in your room so people can hear you. Speak into the microphone the right way.
And to Chris's point too, if you've got a YouTube channel, you're like, well, I don't really have any videos. Well, if you've been a guest on a lot of shows that are on YouTube, create a playlist and add all those shows where you've been a guest to that playlist. I'm going to do that with this show. I've got a list there. I've even got a list, I think Chris probably does too, of these are shows I've produced.
3.
So people can see, that if you want to call it that online resume, if they say, well, can you show me some shows you've done? Here you go. Here's the list.
Here's a playlist.
It just makes it that much easier. And, because I think sometimes people get, you've got all the experts telling you like, well, you got to, do so many of these videos. And, if you do this and do that, you'll get to 1,000 subscribers and then money will be raining down from Google. And that's not true. But that's what some people think. And that's why they do it. But I think going back to what you said earlier, Marco, and I know Chris and I have had this conversation. We've had other people bring this up. Anybody today can have a show, but that doesn't mean they're going to have a good show. And sometimes you don't need a show, you need to be a guest. Because, even like today, right? You're interviewing us, you're getting feedback from us. If we came on this show and all that happened was you telling us how brilliant you are, which you are anyway, it would be like,
And
that's
tall.
not really what, yeah, and tall. I didn't know he was tall, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
I will just let you know, if you've heard of Alexander the Great and Napoleon, you know my height. So that that is the thing that people have to understand is maybe you don't need a show because it's a lot of work, right? It's a lot of work to have a show. You might be better off actually, guesting, right? Because your audience is getting to meet the person that's interviewing you, as well as you're getting that cross pollination of your communities. And people may say, to your point, like, hey, Marco, I saw you on Chris Stone's show, and I really liked what you said. I'd like to talk with you more about how we can work together. And I think that's what people, need to think about. But I just think there's, you talk about even with AI, I think AI is a tool. I don't think it's the end all and be all. And what I find funny, and I'm sure you guys do as well, is we've seen these people over the last, I don't know, I guess 3 or 4 years go from, crypto and NFTs to, I start to forget all these different things that people switch every 6 months to being the new expert on. And so right now, everybody's an expert on AI. Well, personally, and I don't know how you guys feel, I was always told to be an expert in something, you had to have 10,000 hours in it. So I don't know how they've gotten 10,000 hours into AI to make them experts as well as that. So I think that's, and I watched this show the other day, and it really made me think about AI in a different way. It was on Netflix, and it was talking about how AI is being used in the military. So it kind of gets into the whole Schwarzenegger thing with Terminator, but drones and all this technology is being used to do things. So everybody's talking about Chat GPT. Well, okay, well I'm a little bit more concerned about drones that can follow me around and video me and can do heat signatures and things like that. Do you need to learn it? Yes. Is it the answer? No. You are the answer. Your individual story, your uniqueness is what sets you apart. If everybody starts just putting out the same stuff because like, oh, I got this ChatGPT article, and some people don't even fact check it. I think that's where the problem is. But I think you got to be open-minded. You've got to play with it, learn what it can do, and then decide where you go from there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And we have here Mr. Marcello. Hello,
Yes,
my friend.
Marcello from Atlanta,
Neighbor.
Georgia. Great to see you, Marcello.
Yes, he's your
The A
neighbor.
is represented here.
Yes.
And that point that you mentioned about being a guest, and he mentioned that as well, because I can tell by myself, one of the problems when you are doing all the time live shows as a host, and when we talk about live shows, we can talk also about recorded shows, podcasting, whatever, is that you will be seen as the interviewer guy. And I realized maybe I need to do one of the things I made was kind of doing these solo shows, so I can be sharing also what I know, my thoughts, my reflections, because there's this problem. There's a thin line between being someone knowledgeable about any given topic or just being the interview guy, even though it's not as easy as it seems, being a good interviewer, but you have that challenge as well.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, the dichotomy of a host and a guest is something that I deal with every day because I have clients that are hosts, but they're also guests, and so I'm able to coach them on both. And a lot of times, if you're someone who is a thought leader like yourself, Marco, and you're doing the solo thing and you're sharing your knowledge solo, right? You're helping people. You're creating something that somebody's searching for. How do I use a Shure SM7B? right? And then you pop up and they're listening to you and they like you and they're like, oh, I like this guy. I like his laugh. He's very tall, whatever. And there's a theme in this show, right? And so that is a one-to-one kind of community thing. Podcasting, when it's, when you think about host and guest, is really about show. And you can pull in a community, and right, like we pulled in Marcello, and we know Marcello, and he's part of our community, right? We connect with him on LinkedIn, and so a live stream can become very much something like this. But a lot of times, even if you do go live and it's host and guest, if you're someone who, like right now, I'm talking a lot, right? I'm the guest on Marco's show. Marco wants to share what Jim and I have with his community. And right, they know Marco, the people that are watching, whether it's Marcello or whatever, they're like, okay, cool. They're bringing guests on, and maybe they're interested, maybe they're not, but you're bringing us on to share that. If Marco talked the entire time as a host, that's not much different than him doing a solo show and just being all of him, and doesn't give an opportunity for the guest to share more knowledge with the community. And I think as a host, that is really what's key, is you can't show up and talk all the time. But at the same time, you got to make sure that Jim and I, as a host, aren't going off the rails. Like if all of a sudden I started talking about something that has nothing to do with serving your community, Marco, your job as a host is to poke us back into the lane and say, "Hey guys, you
will be grounded.
Let's talk here, right?" And because as a host, your entire job is to serve the people that you're talking to, and even your guests need to be serving the people that are in your community, and that is incredibly difficult for people most of the time. Even that have, I have some clients that have notoriety of some sort. And I have to remind them, hey, you're talking too much, right? You brought a really great high-level guest on your show, but are they really serving your community? Are they is this person, if you're someone who's a sales trainer and you bring a celebrity chef on your show, how is that? And even if it's Emerald or somebody that's high level, like I had Emerald Lagasse on my show, but does that serve your community? Right? Just because you can say you had this person on your show, it doesn't mean anything to your community, and that's really what it's all about as a host versus a guest.
Absolutely. And the thing is, this will take us to the next question. How can I understand which things I should talk? Because this always comes to the table. Oh, I don't know why should I talk about, what topics, what should I cover, and blah, 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 blah. How can we know what we should talk?
I think that, and I really, Chris is the one that made me think about this, and it's become something I believe very deeply in. What problem are you solving for your community? Instead of being a live seller, be a live solver. And so when you create content that solves problems, oh, I love it, Chris. I love it. When you create content that solves a problem, that's how you're serving. And so when I go to these networking events periodically out in the community, as I like to say when I go peopling, need to make a shirt that says I'm going peopling.
Hello.
What happens is you're like, to Chris's point, well, is your business on YouTube? Well, why would I want to be on there? Well, what do you do? And then it's like they're trying to give you the elevator pitch. Well, if you had videos on your YouTube channel that explained, right, educate, entertain, engage, and empower your audience, well, when I go search for, plumbers in, Atlanta, Georgia, and because we know a guy, a plumber, who did so well because of YouTube. He's sold his business and has made, God knows how much money. Roger Wakefield, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
He started making videos about plumbing, right? You'd say, well, who's going to watch that? People watch it.
Yeah.
People watch videos on how to change their headlights on their, fancy cars because they don't want to go to the guy that's in the shop that's going to charge them, $500 to do it. So, how can you solve my problem? That's what you should be talking about. Because if you can't talk about it, then you're not ready.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
really
that's
about identifying your avatar. I know it, or the person that you're speaking to, like, and knowing exactly who they are. Like, almost have like a picture in their mind. Is it someone that is like you, or is it someone that hey, the more I'm doing this kind of content, Jim and I were thinking it was one kind of person, and it kind of moved into another lane. You have to have your not your blinders, but you have to have like a real focus on who that person is, and then think about what their issues are. What are their problems? Do they have a problem getting motivated? Do they have a problem with their how to set up a camera? Do they have a problem? I don't know. Are they depressed? Are they like, why are they depressed? Like, think about all those things, and then think about how you can solve those problems. That becomes your content. So, like, we'll do something as far as like a setting up of a for instance, this Shure MV-X2U, which is actually an interface. And so if I'm someone who is looking at this as an interface, and there's interfaces that are the size of your desk, right? Rodecaster Pros and things like that. And I think to myself, you know what? If I'm someone that needs this, I'm kind of a minimalist. I want things clean. I don't want a bunch of stuff and knobs and things like a Rodecaster. I just want something I can take with me wherever I go and plug in my microphone, and this goes into my computer. And so that's the content. This is the content, and the title even becomes something like how, the smallest way to travel with a microphone or something like that. And then that's your content, because we're thinking, how can this solve someone's problem? And then you get questions, right, on your live streams or on the YouTube videos that you create. Can I connect my iPhone to it? Can I connect my iPad to it? Will it work with this? And then you're answering questions. It's not live. It's more asynchronous, right, on YouTube. But you're doing the same thing. You're solving, to Jim's point, this is solving someone's problem. Just create content that does that. Now, this is more, product oriented, but you can do the same concept applies for anything. Like, same motivation, mindset, things like that. You think about how that person is, you talk with other people, you find out what their problems are, and then you're like, I'm going to create a video that hopefully will help people solve those problems.
And it's been amazing, Chris. We've met some people through the Podfest community that very niche, unique fields. And in some cases, they were on YouTube and they had a small audience YouTube size-wise, but were doing amazing because the people that they were getting in touch with, whether it was in the golf industry or commercial real estate, it's like, this person knows what they're talking about. That's who I need, right? We don't need everybody. We need that specific, unique community that we want to work with. Or as I say, here, I think Ramon says it, right? Your zone of genius. What's your zone of genius? And also, right, because we're constantly learning. I mean, we're using EV Mux here today, right? But I think, Marco, we've probably gone live on just about every different live streaming platform, and they all have their pros and cons. Chris and I like to say we're platform agnostic, because we're not going to say this is the only way or the best way, because something may come out that changes our mind. And so you got to look at strengths and weaknesses of these things and not be afraid to tell people. And that's why even, and I know you're the same way, Marco, as Amazon, influencer space, we get people asking us all the time, like, hey, will you talk about our product? We got an email today that, right, I don't know. I don't even know what the thing was. It looked like it was something an engineer would use. But they're like, we really like your content. Will you do a video about this? It's like, no, because
doesn't serve
why would I use it? Doesn't serve our audience, and it doesn't serve us.
Absolutely. And Your thoughts on this. By the way, let me say hello to Siba. How are you? Because he wrote
Hey.
a message in Portuguese in the Amazon chat, and he got.
Oh no.
Yeah, that's right. You can only do English on the
Yes.
Can you
So
Amazon.
translate it? Was it something that you remember, or you just?
he was saying hello. How are you?
Oh.
Something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Hi. Bye. Come back.
So you mentioned two things that for me resonate with my journey. One, and I believe it. This is important. Well, two things that for me they are really important, and I'm well. One, it doesn't happen, but it was not a mistake. It's kind of a consequence, and the other one was a mistake I made. First, let me talk about the consequence because sometimes we think, oh, I don't know what to talk about. Start delivering the most common, the FAQ. And you mentioned that once you start creating content, one of the consequences is people will come to you with more questions.
Right.
Okay, this is kind of a monster that feeds itself. The second thing, which for me it's pretty important, and for instance, for you, Chris, because you gave the example of the audio interface, and this is something that I made this mistake, was when I started with, oh my God, in real life, congresses, workshops, wherever,
Mm-hmm.
I was speaking to myself. So people were looking at me. They realized maybe this guy is saying nice things, smart things, but one, I don't understand most of them. Two, I don't know how to use them in my business. So I believe this is something that we should have in mind as well, because, and I believe that we suffer from, I don't know, I don't came up with this syndrome yet, but that's this thing, because mostly marketing professionals, which should be communicating and on YouTube, blah blah blah. We are here creating content and thinking about our peers watching us, and we want to look good on camera, and we want to be seen as wise, smart people, brilliant people. But the thing is, we are not talking to ourselves. I'm not talking to you, Chris. I'm not talking to you, Jim. I'm talking to those people which know few things about marketing, but they will understand. Okay, I believe that's my problem. I believe that the solution is that maybe I can use it right away and I don't need to hire him, but who knows in the future if the thing gets a little bit hairy, I can talk with them. Do you first, how do you address these two things, like starting creating content? It's a good way to get more ideas because people will start feeding you with other topics to talk about. And second, did you had this situation when you realized maybe I'm not talking to my customers, let me kind of change the communication tone and the language so
Yeah.
people understand how I'm talking to them and how they can use my knowledge in their advantage.
This is great. I love this, and it's Marco. I had the same issue, and one of the clients that I work with, his name, and Jim knows him. His name is Dan Jordan. He's the sales energizer, and one of the fringe benefits of having clients that are, coaches and business is they will give you coaching. They're my client. They pay me. But I can go to them and say, hey, what do you think about this? And I don't have to pay them $200 an hour. They'll just, give me that advice. And the advice he had for me when he was looking at my website and he was looking at my content, and it changed everything for me. And I've given him credit before on shows, was that there was too much of me, I, and we in my content. It was too much of me talking about me. I do this. I have done this. My company does this. that kind of thing doesn't feel inclusive to people. People feel like there's a wall up. And he said, you have to change your I, me, and we to you, and it will change everything. And it was really hard for me because all of my content was like, here's what I do and all of that. But instead it became, you can do this. You are, and so it's more inviting. And so a lot of people will go on social media and they'll just trumpet their content. They'll just spit out all of their content. And then you look at how many followers they have and how many people they follow, and you can immediately say, this person doesn't engage with anyone. You have to be open and communicate and jump into social media and say, and especially now, man, especially now, there's so many people that you have to connect with people in some way, shape, or form. And if it's too much and you're too big of a deal, then hire someone to do it for you, because you have to. You can't just put yourself out there on YouTube and not be inclusive and not go live and like you're doing and pulling people into the chat and doing those kinds of things, because if you put up a wall, people won't connect with you and people won't feel like they feel like you're untouchable. And if you're, at the level that we're at and you're not talking to people, I mean, come on, nobody's going to hire you. You have to like be open and say, here's all my stuff, and if you contact me, I'm going to contact you back. That kind of stuff. So I don't know, Jim, any thoughts on that?
No, I think you're right, Chris, and I think we both have run into situations where we would have somebody say, like, well, how come nobody's engaging with my content? And it's like, are you engaging with theirs?
You're not, right?
Well, what do you mean? It's like it's not all about you, right? I had a guy that I was working with was like, he wanted to know, well, how do I get more engagement on LinkedIn? I said, you need to engage. Well, I don't like doing that. I said, well, there's your answer. Nothing's going to change.
It's not going to happen.
And you can hire somebody, right? You could hire someone like me or Chris, not that Chris or I would do it, to be your, to pretend we're you, but that's not how it works, right? You need to be that person. Judy Fox, if you actually go look at her stuff on LinkedIn, she doesn't post a lot, but she engages like crazy. Mm. And she said that's really been the critical thing for her is it's, it isn't about, like Chris says, it's I'm broadcasting to the world, look at me. And it's like, who cares, right? What I want to know is, and I love what Chris said, because I know when I was doing the Tim and Jim show, we would start to do things like that. The lead-in would be like, do you want to know how to improve your LinkedIn page? Right? You start saying, yeah, I do, right? It's not, we're going to show you. It's like, do you, right? Ask the question. That's how you get that first yes. That's kind of, I think, those salespeople's trick is make it about you, not about me. And we're going to help you solve your problem. And right. That's what you have to think of. And so, people think like, well, if I go to a networking event and do my elevator pitch, people are going to hire me. No, they're not. You've got to get to know people. It's about building know, like, and trust. Marketing does that. Marketing doesn't sell, right? I think, that's that one thing too, where people will say like, well, we want to increase our sales. Well, we can, like, it's that whole, you can get a horse to water, but you can't make them drink it. Think of marketing that way. We can get people to look at your channel, but if the product you're offering is garbage, they're still not going to buy it. And then you can say, well, marketing's not working. No, your sales isn't working. And I think that's what people have to understand is that it's, marketing builds awareness, it builds trust, it builds loyalty, but you've got to have, something that people need to solve their problem, or they're going to go somewhere else.
Absolutely. And that thing about engagement is crazy because I like to say that commenting, it's the best prep that you can get for your own comment and content. And it has nice things like when you start your own content, the thing is you'll be in the stadium all alone, performing for nobody. If you go, for instance, commenting someone who has an engaged community, you will have right away those eye bulbs looking at you. So it's a nice way for you to start building authority, to start building that confidence from people, which is important as well. Also, it's a safety net because you will get the main content, you'll get other comments that somehow could lead you to the conversation. They could help you. Like, okay, if they are talking that green could be nice, and here again, green it's nice, so I can bring my thoughts about green as well. So it's not that risky. And also you'll get this validation, and you will get probably feedback, which is nice. And sometimes it's well, most of the times it's really hard to get the feedback when you're starting. Even when you are a little bit veteran, sometimes it's harder as well. So the thing is, and as you said, Jim, and this is something that we should reconsider about the content creation mindset, which is, oh, I'm not, because the thing is, sometimes people, they don't want to go putting likes and commenting whatever in other content from other people, because it's kind of, if I go there, it's like saying to them that they are important, and I don't want to do that. It's something that I wouldn't do. So I believe, and for instance, this is a conversation that I need to have with my sister, not because she does this way, but the thing is, she just goes through the social media platforms and she lives, and well, she's more focused on Instagram and Facebook, but I need to have this serious conversation with her, like, you should interact with other people so they can go back to you, because at least they will look and who is this? Let me check.
Right.
And also we know that algorithms, they love when you interact with other people.
And share, right. Yeah. I think
Sharing
that
is
is a key point, right? Is that, you know, it's not just about you, right? And so I think a lot of times when you sit down to do social media or you start scrolling, it can become selfish. It's like, how can this help me? How can this help me? If I comment on this thing, is that going to help me? I think if you turn it around, just like what we talked about, focusing on your avatar, if you're scrolling through, make a comment that would be inviting to someone in that you're that's your avatar, that the person that's solving the problem, and, you know, add value with that comment. You know, I see a lot of people commenting just for commenting's sake. So you'll see somebody that's a LinkedIn, influencer, or somebody that's like a high level thing, and they're just commenting to make a comment and typing people's names in it. And, you know, is that going to work on LinkedIn's algorithm? Maybe. But is it really worth anything? Is anybody going to, like, to your point, Marco, is anybody going to go, that's actually an interesting comment. I wonder who this person is. I wonder if, they're a remote producer and I need that, and this comment kind of led me there. So commenting just for commenting's sake doesn't really do much for you. It may get you shown a little bit more in some algorithms. But I think, you know, at the level we're at, you just gotta go in and make a comment and say, and again, with that mindset of, how is this going to help somebody by me you know, doing this post, or is it just me trumpeting my stuff? And but to your point, Marco, going and looking on other people's stuff and going, that's something I could add value to with my comment, and that might help. Sort of the mindset of not being all about yourself and whatever your scroll is, but try to solve people's problems in there. I'm sensing a theme, Jim, in this thing.
We're doing some live solving here today. Yeah, no, it is, Chris. I mean, you really, nailed that. I mean, that's the whole thing, right? We see people, just to your point, commenting for the sake of commenting. I know that I probably more so even now. I'm that lurker, right? I see what a lot of people post, but here's something people don't always realize: be careful what you interact with, because then that's what the algorithm starts to feed. So, especially because we're getting ready to enter in the U.S. another year of political season and insanity. You can have your viewpoint, but don't like anything, because that's what the algorithm will start to feed you. I view that stuff from afar. I, I think over the last several years, I've learned about some things about people I didn't know because they put it out there on social. So I think we have to think, tactically about what we're going to put out there, and strategically, what is it you're trying to do overall, right? Are you trying to grow your business, or are you trying to alienate people? And so, this whole shock content model, I think is a little crazy sometimes, and it works for some people, doesn't work for me. But I also think Chris brings this up all the time. This show right now is our legacy. Years from now, I don't know where is that me or you guys? That was weird. I heard some music coming from somewhere. Might be my other
I'm
computer.
hearing it too.
I'm going to have to go mute my other computer here in a second. I don't know why I did that. But this is our legacy. And so my grandson that's going to be born in several months can see what his grandpa looked like when he was in his 50s, and that I had music on a show that I shouldn't have.
Yeah.
That is hilarious. It's like an alarm or something. You got some Cool in the Gang jam happening there in the background.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think Marco, if we're talking about the theme of this show, and we talked about AI and we, a little bit, and we're, of course people are going to be talking about AI, and, wake up and throw a rock and you're going to hit 17 new AI apps that may or may not be ready for use. And
the world of Apple.
Yeah, and I think what you have to understand and stay sort of like true to is that there's a lot of stuff that's going to come and go, and you as a mortal, as a human in this whole thing, can totally use AI, right? But don't use it as an easy button, to use an old term, rubber stamp content. Make sure that you as a human is involved in it, in your voice, whether in your brand, stays true. I use a lot of AI in what I do, and I've done it for years. But if you search any of my content, I'm in it. It's me. It's my voice. And AI may have served up a framework for whatever I have in my content, but it's still me. And I'm just, I just think it's so important. And I think things, if I'm going to pull out my crystal ball, like you talked about at the beginning of the show, I think because all of this AI is coming out and because there's tons of content creators and people using this stuff, it becomes even more important for you to be a better storyteller, for you to, as a human, show who you are on live video, because none of this that we're doing right now is artificial intelligence. It is Chris, Jim, and Marco, and we are talking across, across the great divide here. We are talking and we are sharing what we have to say. Nothing is artificial about it, and so you have to get better at that. That means firing up your own webcam and solving problems with people, either live or recorded, but certainly somebody can do all that stuff, create your own avatar, create a different voice, and they're doing all of these things, Marco, where all you have to do is check some boxes and it creates a podcast for you with your voice. It's all kinds of craziness. And I think that's incredible technology, but is it you? And I think people trust people. Mortals trust mortals. And so you have to stay true to being a human in all of this stuff. use it. Don't be afraid of it. But I think you have to stay yourself with all of it. That's my crystal ball thing. So
Yeah, Chris, I couldn't agree more. I think that is the key to success, is to be real, to be you. I'm with Chris. I use AI as a framework, right? It gives me that jump start. That sure, if I sat there and pounded my brain for several hours, I could come up with that. But to be able to say, "Hey, I need an outline." Okay, I forgot about that point. Thank you. I use Magi, right? I'll say thank you, Claude, for giving me that one point that I would have forgot in this thing I've got to put together. But then I write it out. It's me. I don't sit there and say, write this for me and send it off, because it's not in my voice. And you can kind of tell when it's not in your voice. And I think it's creepy at this point in time to go ahead and get your AI voice or your AI video avatar that, like, okay, we could actually create a video Chris and we could have him do product reviews, but it's like, that's just not why. You still got to spend the time to do it, so why not just do it yourself? And I just that's where I think people are always looking for that proverbial easy button, and I think that's part of the problem. There are no shortcuts.
Well, I know Stu Heineke is creating his own avatar like this, but I think what's interesting about what he's doing is he's doing it for a reason, because and I don't want to get morbid, but if I were to die, right, I have a bunch of content that is, Jim's point, is a legacy, right? That is a bunch of stuff that's been chopped up and can be used for, long beyond my death. If you create your own avatar, your own AI, a person that sounds just like you, your voice just like you, 11 Labs does some has great technology to do that, and you create your own sort of avatar. When I'm dead and that avatar actually serves people and it's actually, I still think people will go, but that's not Chris. He's gone, right? This is a version of him. And so we'll see. I mean, I think the technology is not there yet, but is really interesting to find out. So, like, Marco, maybe would you create an avatar of yourself that would live on past you?
Impossible.
Would he be 6'2", or would he be
Seven feet.
7 feet tall? Let's do it. Why not?
I think there's a Black Mirror episode that does something like that on Netflix, which
that show is creepy.
Yeah, it is. And I think that's an interesting. It's an interesting perspective. I don't know. I'm not there yet. I'd rather.
I'm not there yet either, but I do like the legacy aspect of it, right? Yeah. But I just don't think it's ready just yet. Like, if you create like a cartoon version of yourself, it really isn't you, right? But if you can create something that really feels like you and are, open about it, saying, hey, listen, this is a different version of me. I think that's the other thing, like deep fakes and copying actual, humans and putting them into videos that they weren't. That's yikes. That's scary. And I think that would be, I don't know. If the technology can be used for good, I'm all for it.
Right.
Absolutely. I'm just giving you a little spoiler. You should check my prediction on next year's book by Ross Brand.
Oh. You're not gonna share what it is?
Well, I can give you the title. Hopefully it remained there, because the thing is, he gave us a limit and I went through the limit. I don't know, but my title was The Year of the Delegation AI. Delegation
AI.
Instead of the normal delegation, it's with the AI. Like, all the things that AI could help us,
Right.
Okay, I've kind of brought some steps how we can structure content. Okay, and having in mind the different stages how AI can help us.
Awesome.
Interesting.
I'll leave it there. But there's one SEO specialist from Brazil that has this saying that I actually love, which is advanced SEO is the basic SEO. I believe, having in mind our conversation, that the content marketing trend in 2024 will be the old content marketing. Like helping people, which by the end of the day, hopefully they will become your customers.
Well, think about it, Marco. If I'm using AI to theoretically attract a customer, and it's maybe something I really don't know because I had AI do it for me, am I really going to serve that customer, or am I going to be, brought out at some point as a sham? Because the reality is, don't be putting content out there about stuff you don't know just because that's the trend or what's popular. I mean, I don't know how many AI experts we now know, Chris, that just because they opened up ChatGPT and figured out how to do prompts, now they're an expert. Well, the reality is, a new evolution of it'll come out, or oh, now you want to go use this. Oh, now and it's like, I just want my answer.
Yeah,
I just want my problem solved.
Exactly. It's one thing, Marco, when you talk about SEO, and what Jim's saying. It's one thing to get found, but when you are found, you better be ready, right? Okay, we're all trying to get found. We're getting on all this stuff, and we have all our content on all this stuff. But you better be ready when somebody contacts you. You talked about somebody on LinkedIn saying, "Hey, I saw your stuff. I want to work with you." You got to be ready when you are contacted to deliver what you need to deliver for that person. So it's a great point, Jim. It's like, I just think I'm going to put out an article about, how deepfakes are, this, that, and the other. And you put out an article and use ChatGPT to create it. And a lot of that information may be correct, may be incorrect, whatever. And somehow you hit the SEO lottery and a lot of people are finding it, right? And so they think you're a deep fake expert and you're not, right? And so you just have to continue to, and it just goes back to what I was saying. It's like, humanize everything that you're doing, make it mortal. I'm using that word today, Marco, because I just love it. But, you got to be ready to deliver when somebody does find you. And that's really important to do that. Make sure your website represents what you can do, and that when somebody does search Marco Nova, when somebody does search Jim Fuhs, when somebody Fusion Marketing, when somebody searches Chris Stone or Cast Ahead, that it says, "Hey, this person does this," and you're in the right place. It's almost like Kirk Nugent, who's I'm sure is a great content creator, and he talks about what's called station identification, which means when you have a show or when you have something that you're putting out there, make sure you let people know once they hit play or once they see you who it's for. Like, this is for this person, and if you're this person, you're hanging out. Cool. If you're not this person, bye, Jenny. That content wasn't for you, right? So it's almost like, I think about this, and I tell this to the clients I work with. Your content is almost like people are walking onto a plane, and they come and they sit down, and you hear this bing, 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 bing. Your flight is headed to Lisbon, and we're about to take off, and you're like, oh crap, I was supposed to go to Kentucky. Right? This is not the plane. This is not the plane I was supposed to be on. Right? You get up and you go out. That's what your content should do. Don't like trick people into thinking that the content is for them. Right? You let them know, hey, you're here for this. And if they go, whoops, this is not me, I need to go somewhere else. That's actually a good thing. That helps to build your trust. You got to qualify the people that show up. So it's one thing to get found. It's another thing to let people know that what you're going to do and then deliver it to them. And it's the model for creating a podcast. It's the model for creating a live stream. It's the model for creating really anything in business is, hey, this is for you, person. And if it's not for you, go that way. This is not, see you later. So.
Absolutely. Your final thoughts, Jim?
Final thoughts. I think that going back to what you asked at the beginning, is it too late for me to start my content marketing journey in 2024? Flat out, no. I think it's going to continue to. Things are going to continue to change. I'm dealing with folks on a weekly basis that even in like the nonprofit arena. I've been doing a lot of work with some veterans groups. The message isn't out there, right? There's no video explaining to somebody how they can get help with maybe some of the things they're struggling with, right? There's this assumption that the stuff's easy to find, and it's not. And so that's why, for me, I'm becoming a much bigger fan of what the possibilities are for YouTube. I also, where I do like the AI, and I think Chris has been doing this, is now we can take that video and we can transcribe it quickly without having to pay a lot of extra money, and can turn that into other types of content, whether it be a blog post, whether it be clips that drive people back to the original thing. And I think that's what people need to think about, the whole repurposing thing, and how, like this show, right? When this show is over, you go on to the next show, but there's nuggets in here that you want to share with your community that will bring people back to watch the episode or to want to learn more about, the amazing Chris Stone at Cast Ahead. And so I think that's what people got to think about, right? It's not going to happen overnight. That's the other thing, right? You got to warn people about. Just as a side note, I was working with a company and a client that we were doing a live show weekly, but they weren't seeing the results they expected. Well, we'd only been doing it for 3 months, and they weren't taking our recommendations of how to make things better.
Yeah.
And so, because they'd done it another way in the past, right? Things are constantly changing. What worked in the past isn't going to work today. And I think that's what people have to think about, oh, well, I get referrals from the yellow pages. Well, no, you don't anymore. People are changing how they interact with people, right? People are, the most important asset we have is our time. And, if we waste it, we don't get it back. And so when you're creating content, how is this really moving the ball forward? Don't just create content for the sake of creating content.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is an important lesson, because sometimes we think it's just, okay, let me post this and what?
Yeah.
Absolutely. After this, where can people find you?
You can find me at chrisstone.contact. If you go there, that's where you can connect with me on anything that you want. If your platform's LinkedIn, or if your platform's YouTube, or if your platform's, heck, Pinterest, whatever, you click on that and I can connect with you any way, shape, or form. I'm at castahead.net, and if you're looking to create a show and have somebody else do it for you, that's my gig.
Yep.
Awesome.
And you can go to fusionmarketing.live is kind of my hub of where you can get a lot of information about me, or just go to LinkedIn and look for Jim Fuhs and follow me or connect with me, as long as you're not spamming me, telling me how you're going to help me with my HR problems. And Chris, I loved your comment yesterday, because I've been getting some of these emails like, did you in case you didn't see my other emails? No, I did see them. I'm just not going to open them.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, I can sense a CRM email a mile away. We can smell it. And I would just add one other thing, Marco, and I know we're over time. Jim talked about some last words. I would just say, get on YouTube. Get some content on YouTube. It's the second largest search engine. And where we're going, in the future is that everyone needs to have some sort of video virtual presentation, right? That is really going to be sort of your card table in the internet, in the world, so you have to, when people are searching, you've got to have some sort of video content of yourself, presenting yourself, who you are, what your brand is, and I would just encourage everybody to do that. And if they're getting started, find a way to get content up there.
Absolutely. So go to YouTube and create, and
Yeah.
and okay. I need to bring this because I saw this conversation yesterday again. Because there's this struggle. Because we like to put everything in a struggle. And there's this struggle that quantity it's against quality. And for me, it doesn't make any sense. Because, as I said, because yesterday there was this conversation about shoppable videos and quantity, quality. And that's my thinking about this. It's almost impossible to get quality without doing in quantity, but of course having in mind quality. Because you can have 2 bad videos, okay, and you can have 1,000 amazing videos, or at least in 1,000 videos you can have 500 really good videos, because at least I don't know any other way to get better which is not practicing.
Yeah.
So this is one of the secret sauces for you to get consistency, is because you will improve. And I'm going to leave it. If you want to know more about Jim and Chris, please follow the instructions. Also in the video description, you have the links to find the Dealcasters, and I believe from there it's pretty easy to find Jim and Chris. Thank you so much, my friends. It was a pleasure, an honor to have you here.
Thank you.
I have you.
Thank you, man.
I had you both individually, but now I have you both at the same simultaneously.
I was on this show. What, 3 years ago, probably. And if I go back and watch that show, and that's like if you were to search my name, that video, that interview with you comes up, and I'm like, it's horrifying to me because I was upstairs, I had bad lighting. Maybe everyone on the show should watch that and go, wow, yikes, that was bad.
It'll just let them know that there's hope, Chris.
That's right. That's right. But it was a great conversation, Marco.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
you do a great job of repurposing and taking stuff from these interviews and popping it up and letting people know. And that's really what it's about, is creating a legacy for what you're doing, because you never know when somebody sees that video and goes, huh, who is that person? I really need that. That's a problem that I have and that they can potentially solve for me. So, and then get ready, right? Because once they find you, you got to be ready to deliver it.
Absolutely. Well, time to wrap up, like we like to say here in Portugal. And there's the other day I saw someone posting on Facebook. It's already the time when we say, if we don't see before, have a Merry Christmas.
Yeah. Happy holidays.
Yes.
So, bye-bye. See you soon.